This is an Indian movie and it's marketed as a romance. However, I would argue that it's actually more of a love story than a strict romance. But that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It still fulfills most of the genre tropes a movie like this is supposed to fulfill. And it's a story about a younger woman who's studying to be an accountant, and a slightly older man who's just sort of hustling aimlessly, while everyone around him is pressuring him to settle down and get married. Well, these two end up meeting and getting themselves in a bit of a precarious situation, and you probably know where it goes from there as the plot didn't really offer many surprises. However, their relationship and how it grows did feel very organic. It didn't feel rushed or forced like it might in a lot of these movies. And overall, it's a very slow, deliberate and subtle movie. But it's also effective and I liked it. I actually enjoyed it a fair bit. That being said, I would probably say I appreciated it more than I actually liked it. Because my only real issue with it was that it didn't really resonate with me emotionally. Not on the level that it should have, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe because of the characters that took it very slowly and didn't exactly throw themselves at each other. They're very reserved and apprehensive even. They just take their time and aren't really sure what to do. And as I said, it's very slow and subtle, and while I appreciate that, I think it can also be a problem in a movie like this. If the emotions aren't shown strongly enough, and a bit of dramatic flair which this thing lacks can actually be a good thing. But yeah, I did also really appreciate it on a more technical level, because the attention to detail in the writing is excellent. There are so many seemingly minor and irrelevant details that are brought up throughout the whole movie, that suddenly come into play a few scenes later and actually turn out to be important. I mean, that happens all the time in this, to the point that I don't think anything is really brought up unless it really matters. If some detail or anecdote is brought up in conversation, it'll probably play a bigger role later on. And I love that kind of efficient and effective writing. This one doesn't waste any screen time. It's a slow movie and not even that long. Just an hour 40 minutes or something, but it packs a whole lot into that runtime. It takes advantage of every second, and yeah, how can I not appreciate that? But there was some other interesting stuff in this movie too, because it's a lot about this old-fashioned thinking from an older generation, and the societal pressures to do what's expected, while at the same time trying to find your own path in life. I mean, these two characters aren't really willing to bend to that pressure. They feel an obligation to, but they're still very reluctant. So they're sort of stuck between what the world expects of them and what they actually want to do. But at the same time, they themselves don't really seem to be sure what they really want either. So all of that creates some interesting friction and tension that sort of pushes the movie forward, and makes it feel a lot less straightforward than it actually is. It makes the eventual outcome feel deceptively uncertain. It feels like you're not really sure where it's going, even though you pretty much do know where it's going. So yeah, the writing and the way the story is constructed is really good. And it's not a poorly shot movie either, and the subtle bare-bones score worked really well too. I just wish it had managed to engage me emotionally a bit more. And if it had, I would have probably loved this thing. But I mean, it's still a good movie. So would I recommend it? Sure, if you're looking for a romance/love story, this is a pretty safe bet. Otherwise, maybe skip it. Or don't. I'm not your disapproving father. But I am trying to sell out, so consider liking, subbing, hitting that bell and supporting me on Patreon. Because I really need to fly to Mumbai to take some photos. And hey, why not drop a comment below or check out another review? I'd appreciate it. Thanks.